build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance.
Hello and welcome to Longbangers. I am your Supremo this week, Colin.
Hello, I'm May.
Hello, I contemplated phoning in sick.
Thanks to my understudies this week. I'm hosting this week because I'll be up front. I wasn't at the game yesterday and I've not seen much yet. I wasn't at an escape room, fortunately, for any online trolls. However, how did you find the game, guys? I'll start with Matty. I think I'll give him his place as the best podcaster on the show.
Nicely done with the intro, Colin. I like that. I managed to get out the escape room in time to go to Easter Road yesterday. So anybody who is taking registration and note of who's allowed to go to other games on the back of that attendance, I was there yesterday. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, first half, I thought we deserved to take a lead into half time. We were the better team, but not by much. Second half, we just stepped up again. I thought we were terrific. Really enjoyed it.
Is that what you expect me to do when you ask me that question normally? Like just summarise it really short like that because I feel like I might be going a bit longer than that.
Yeah, just like that.
You're happy with that?
Yeah.
Cool. That's fine, John. Beat that.
See, next week, do I need to not go to the game? Do I need to have some other sort of activity?
Sure turn.
Next
week.
You got crazy golf or something, John?
I didn't see where I was. I didn't see where I was, but I don't think the excuse would be acceptable either way. So I'm not sure.
You were still watching the Hibs, weren't you? So
I was.
I think the level that you watched probably gives you extra points because that's like, but did you go? Ken, it's like, did you go to Elgin away on a Tuesday night? But were you at the fucking the women's under 14s?
I was at Hamilton away on a cold Saturday lunchtime. 1:30, it was kicked off. I thought I was actually going to get home to see most of the game, but ended up not getting home till like after 4:30. A 4-1 win for the 14 national performance girls yesterday morning, at lunchtime, afternoon, whatever it was. So that was where I was. So mark up the points on that on the loyalty points scorecard.
I think you doubled for that, Colin. Nobody could be questioning that commitment.
Anyway, next week I should be there because there's no game next week. Anyway, carry on, John.
What I was going to say was I thought the game was more open than I expected it, St Johnstone in particular. But I think we got to see some really good signs from Hibs with some of the... I don't think it was like revolutionary changes, but you definitely saw a little bit more coming from Hibs than we have in recent weeks. And I swore I would never point to the goal difference, but I think that's now 6 goals in the last 3 games, 2 conceded. So that definitely suggests an improvement. I thought we were just better than St Johnstone on the day. I think they tried to hit us in the counter attack, and we were just we stood the test.
See, before we go into the game itself, and you're talking about noticing differences, John. Were you in time for the warm up?
No.
Right. So the warm up was.
Do you get extra points for that?
But I think, by the way, we got down early because of the installed the new turnstile QR scanners, and there's a bit of a history of Hibs installing these things, and then them not being quite perfect when they're tested in a live environment. So we were down early, worked absolutely fine. We were in just at the back of 2:00, so we got to see the full warm up, and it's different. You know how warm-ups are pretty standard. Like if you watch Hibs warming up and you watch like even Celtic and Rangers warm up the same way, it's the same drills that they do almost at the same time. And you'll have one team maybe a couple of minutes before the other and goes in a couple of minutes before the other, but more or less it's the same drills that they do. It was completely different. So we had like in-game situations, if you like so that you had the forwards warming up, then knocking the ball out wide and crossing it low. And the striker like running in and trying to score. And you saw that in the game, like the chance that Yuan missed later on was almost identical to how we'd been warming up. You had the midfield warming up together and the defenders warming up together. And then at the end of the warm up, they all come together for a big huddle, like a sort of Celtic style huddle. Everybody, so subs, coaches, first team, all in the big huddle before they go back into the dressing room. And I thought it was good. It's one of these things I've said for years is why do we not do more realistic drills, kind of like the shooting drill, for example, that we've done for years. It's just the coach laying the ball off for the player to run forward and smash it into the stand.
It is laid off, and then it's like thrown up for a volley. Right, boys, that's yours.
Aye.
By the way, I was told that you're not even really, like coaching courses tell you not to even really do that because you've got half the folk hanging about.
Aye.
Because there's only one laying it off who's a coach and one shooting and the goalie's rotating in. And the other 10 are just standing there waiting their turn, so they're actually not even doing anything. So get everybody involved.
Get them involved. We always say, why do you not have somebody putting pressure on the striker or like having it like you're knocking it wide and running in to finish it, that kind of thing. So it was good how much difference it makes. I don't know, but I like that there was an immediate difference there, and everybody was, like say, participating, involved, and then the huddle at the end. And I think some folk will maybe be a wee bit frosty about us doing a huddle because it's
funny the way
a Celtic thing, but fuck Celtic, we can do it if we want.
But we can copy them. They've copied us plenty. Yeah, fuck's sake. And by the way, Celtic didn't start huddles. Like other teams have done huddles in fucking other sports as well. It's no like an invention. The women do it. Hibs women do it. They've been doing it probably as long fucking as Celtic have. So, and it was Tony Mowbray that started at Celtic, and he's fucking ours. So anyway,
right.
So we try and go through the game. The first thing I noticed for what I've seen was the challenge on Miller. Like I didn't see any VAR tackle on it, but it looked like an elbow, and it was early on in the first half. First half. What was your thoughts on that?
I don't think there was a. Who was the game recently where there was an elbow to the face? In fact, was it also another? And that was at Aberdeen. I don't think it was as violent an elbow. I don't think it was as violent a coming together, but it was definitely an arm across the face. But I mean, is it bowing to the conspiracy theorist by suggesting that Kevin Clancy being the referee yesterday that he just wasn't that bothered about it?
I don't think he's guys sitting in Hart Hill or wherever watching it in the porta cabin. Like it's meant to go to them. Even Sports Scene replayed it, which normally for something like that you're at the game and you see it and you think that was bad, and then you come and watch the highlights and they didn't show it. They actually showed the replay of it.
See with things like that now, you know how you used to get retrospective red cards with VAR and wee guys in a porta cabin in Hart Hill. Does that mean you don't get them anymore? Like, will anyone ever look at that again other than like yourselves?
I think you can still get them. I don't know if it's happened yet though.
I don't know, but there's been things like VAR because I think there was talk, and I've not seen it all yet. I've not seen all Sports Scene. Was it the Kilmarnock game yesterday? Somebody got sent off, and they're saying it's ridiculous, and they're talking getting an appeal after VAR because I think they maybe sent the referee to the screen and he went and kept his decision, but they'll be able to appeal it now because it was like a ridiculous decision. The boys just doubled down on. Not seen it, so maybe it's harsh, but the you know, like so they can do that. So I'm assuming they can say, "How did you all miss that?"
There is a precedent from VAR review decisions being changed at appeal. Like it happened. I can't remember the team. I think it happened to Aberdeen, maybe.
Was it Shinnie?
No, the Shinnie one because I think that was upheld. Because that was upheld, and we had a similar one that we won, or Jago's one. Jago's, in fact, there's your example. So Jago VAR reviewed red card, and we won the appeal on it. So
and who was the referee that day? Was that not Clancy?
No, it wasn't. It was it was
that one that was there the other week.
Aye, the week.
It was Napier.
That's it. Thank you.
They're all good guys. They're just out there doing their best.
It's interesting that way. I think I see a thread on Hibs.net about that, about referees and how you get the same referee every season for the same fixture. It's just like they go copy paste.
Aye.
Yeah.
copy paste. Like there's Napier, Hibs St Johnstone, or Clancy, Hibs St Johnstone, or whatever it is. It's mental just to keep them away for Rangers and Celtic games, basically.
On the subject of Miller takes some treatment. I commented on it yesterday on the Twitter account when I was watching the game, and it's been a pattern. It's not just the game yesterday, but you watch his involvement in games and the treatment he gets opponents. And I think like he's a big physical laddie, right? A big strong unit. He's fucking solid going forward. He's no shy attacker. Like he'll put himself about, but he's not a dirty player. But he gets. It's like it's almost as if the referees go, "Oh fuck, he's a big lad, he can handle it," so they just let it happen. It's mental because he was getting smashed about the place, left, right, and centre on Saturday.
It's funny, because he is a big guy, so you would think normally if you're targeting somebody, you wouldn't target somebody that looks maybe physically like him. but he does seem to get it. But then mind, same position. But Alan Hutton used to get fouled a lot when he played, and he was bombing up and down the right when he was. And I know a lot of them were soft as fuck, but he used to get fouled a lot.
I think folk peg him as a bit of a hothead. Like I reckon they think
try to wind him up.
Aye, get in about him, and he'll do something, and then get sent off.
Do you think that's because he's got mad eyes?
He does a bit.
It could be the mad eyes, and to be like on Saturday, did go head to head with a boy, didn't he? And just in injury time, and actually Clancy handled that situation quite well. We spoke to them both and just was like, "Listen, there's a minute to go. Didn't get fucking sent off." I think is what he more or less said to them, and to calm the situation down.
Can we
give the referee credit here?
That sounded like you were complimenting a referee and Kevin Clancy as well. So I will cut that and we'll publish that.
Fucking hell.
I was going to say it's interesting that you highlight the mad eyes there, Colin, because I think I had an impression of Lewis Miller based on some of his early performances last season, and then I heard an interview with him, and I don't know if it was the Hibs podcast, I forget exactly where it was, but he was talking about a little bit about his time in Australia, what he's looking forward to now that he's playing for Hibs in the season ahead, and he came across as quite articulate, and I know it's maybe like an outdated cliche, but there's an expectation that footballers are going to be a bit thick sounding. But actually, he was quite articulate, came across really well, and I think perhaps and I don't know where this, like, it might just be that whole mad eyes thing, but I've not seen anything from him so far that suggests that he's a bit of a hothead. I actually think he's a much improved footballer compared to last year, and for all the punishment that he takes on the pitch or all the incidents that he's involved in, he's never reacted once. I don't even think I've seen him make nothing jumps to mind in terms of like a rash challenge or a dirty challenge or whatever. And in fact, yesterday's flashpoint at the end of the game where he's reacted, I don't remember him. I think he's maybe had words with someone, but he's never squared up to anyone up until now.
And do you think the perception of footballers all being thick, do you think that's like a sort of reverse snobbery on your part, John? Or what's your thoughts on that? But anyway,
I'm probably a product of my environment. So my mother used to say that all footballers were thick, and my father would say the same, but it's no true.
Good. And the answer, Matthew, to that question is no.
Okay.
Just for our
I'll keep an eye on it.
Off the recorded chat. Yes, thank you. And right on to the goal then. So Joe Neal's given loads of time, floats a wee ball into Lewis Miller, and a good header down to the back post. Happy with that? Somebody? Or he's wanting to add anything to that?
It was, I think, a set piece that had broken down, and it was at the second phase after a set piece. I think, if I remember right, because I'm sure Josh commented on like how many of our goals come for things like that. But it was a lovely ball in for Newell. I mean, inch perfect, really. But Miller's on the wrong side for that header.
Mm-hmm.
I'm obviously delighted that he was, and it's obviously been whoever they've set up for the first set piece has kept him in that position. He's had the sort of wherewithal to no go bombing back to right back, and it was a nice header, nice finish, and because the St Johnstone keeper's decent, it was a good goal.
Can I ask Matthew a slightly unrelated question? One of our listeners has suggested that they'd like a little bit more tactical analysis. How much are you bowing to listener pressure by talking about things like second phases? Second ball, winners.
I'm just trying to sound clever because somebody who came when they were talking about said it to me. And I was like, all right, that's off. There's no peer pressure here. That was just me trying to show off.
So it was a good goal though. It was a good goal. It was good to us to get across and score a goal rather than be on the receiving end of it.
Aye, definitely.
After that, I think there was a couple of chances that I picked one out that I thought, what's his name? Fondre. Got it right. He played a cracking ball to Boyle, I think, and then I can't remember what happened after that, but Boyle never scored. And then Ewan missed a chance as well. He probably should have scored.
I think the chance that you might be referring to with Fondre and Boyle, is that the one where, similar to the training drill, he's kind of cut it across the face of the goal and Boyle's kind of hit it first time and it's gone just wide of the post? Is it that one?
Aye, possibly. I can't remember.
I'm asking the wrong person.
I'm asking fucking you, to be quite honest.
I think that was Vente that squared that one. By the way, a lovely take as well. It was like a long ball, and his first touch was brilliant to sort of set him up for the cross. And I like Hibs played some good moves like that in the first half. Like we were getting the ball wide, And we'll probably come on and talk about like with Tavares, like his involvement, or like, he wasn't brilliant, but he wasn't.
Because I never asked you that question. That's the standard question. What do you call the lineup?
Aye, it's a fun thing with Tavares. Like surrounded about us, like the decent things he did, everybody overreacted to. Oh, that was fucking really good, and then slightly bad things that he did, everybody overreacted when it was, oh, that's fucking shite. He's nowhere near ready. There was, and the probably truth is neither of them were right. They were just all right. Like he had an all right game.
And we see the surprise in the lineup. Do you think the starting lineup?
It surprised me.
Aye, was it? He was the only one though. I think really when you saw it.
I wasn't too surprised because I think we needed cover in a wide position because we weren't sure about the status of Yuan. And actually, as you saw him later on in the game, I think the original thought was that he'd hurt his shoulder when he was at Kilmarnock, but he's come on sporting one of those repetitive strain injury wristbands.
Oh, the carpal tunnel ones.
Yeah. The brown ones with the belly looked like that, but it looked like it was also probably the wee, what is it called? It's no carbon fiberglass. What's the wee stookie? Like the sort of modern day stookie, the lightweight one. It looked like that.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you see loads of teenage lads with him?
Why do you not?
Mm-hmm.
What, like playing football or just going to
just in general, playing for like repetitive.
Oh, right. Like Keith Lemon bandage.
Aye.
They do have them up tune, but they just have them in that wee bag that they have like up across their shoulder.
Ready to bring out later. The bum bags.
Aye. Anyway, back to the game then, right? So we were happy Tavares started and that. Actually, I was reading. I've been trying to read stuff about the game to make up for not being there, and I'm hoping that gets me some sort of credibility or whatever, right? But and now I can't remember what I was going to say because I ended up rambling about that. But there was grumbles, I think, about Hibs taking too long to get it forward in some sections of the crowd. Did you pick up on that, or was it just sort of isolated? Do you think?
It definitely happened.
Matthew, then.
Sorry, I didn't hear my name. Was that an open question, or was that
no?
It was open, and he jumped in. But
I jumped in just as Colin directed the question. So you can take it, John, if you like.
I think what we say about yesterday's game and Hibs getting the ball forward, as I said, St Johnstone weren't as camped in their own half as I expected them to be. Also, I think I mentioned it in one of the previous episodes that I thought that one of the things that they might do is try and frustrate the Hibs fans, like for something like that, like you need to get the ball forward, you need to move it about quicker, pull them out of position, all that sort of stuff. I actually thought that we were very patient in breaking them down and took our chances when they came, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that that's something we can be criticised for because we've seen too many games against St Johnstone and other teams that make it difficult for us. And we know what happens in those games. Like I say, like the fans get frustrated, like we start getting on the Hibs players' back, passes go astray, fucking boo. But actually, what we saw yesterday was the best of that patient approach, and I think what we got for that patient approach is as well. Like when the chances came, we took them. Particularly the second goal. Like the first goal was, as Matty said, was that ball into the box, the second phase. But the second goal was probably a much better example of being patient and then hitting quickly, like moving the ball quickly.
We just talk about the second goal, then we'll jump ahead a wee bit because that was a lovely goal. So, what was your thoughts on that, Matthew? He's kind of touched on it, but what do you?
Terrific. I think John, you sort of described that like a coiled snake ready to pounce, like just biding its time, and it was like a lovely move. I think the highlight the two highlights was really the flick for Fondre, which was just.
Yeah,
I mean, terrific. I mean, he couldn't have done that any better, really. And it totally threw St Johnstone's defence, and then Vente find himself one-on-one with the keeper pretty much, and it's a great finish. Just as soon as he got the ball, you can't. It was a goal.
Like he was going to miss it.
Aye, as soon as he got it, you're like, this is in the back of the net. And Vente didn't get a lot of chances over the course of the game, and actually he's not really had that many chances fall to him since he's come to the club. But his goals to chance ratio is fucking fantastic.
Which is something we even wondered about over the years, really. How many chances do we need to score a goal? Teams come here and beat us 1-0 and they've had no shots on target and they win 1-0 on that. So it's a nice wee change. It's actually, if you watch it back on the TV, the goal, because it's a great touch for Le Fondre, like you say, but he's almost pointing to, I can't remember who passed him it. He's pointing to the person, the player that's passing the ball, to almost just play Vente straight in. And the ball comes to him, so he just fucking looks at where he wanted to pass to go in the first place. Well, that's what it looks like. That's what it appears to be. It's like he's thinking, fucking give me it. Like, he's clearly the fucking best option.
He's been brilliant for us, Fondre as well, which I think folk are maybe a bit surprised by when they signed. I think, like, you see now folk dig out the tweets for when they signed, like, folk talking about a banter signing and like signing somebody at the wrong end of their career, and but you wouldn't tell he's as old as he is, because he doesn't stop running. And there's a point in the second half where he was chasing the ball down, and he just kept at it and kept at it and kept at it. I think we ended up winning a throw-in from it. But some of his touches, like the goal against Luzerne, where he flicked it, and there was that, did he mean it, did he not mean it? He definitely meant it. And then that flick yesterday, he definitely meant it, Cole.
No, I heard Joe Neal saying that the other day on his interview with the Down the Slope boys, but I still don't like it. But I'm happy to accept that they're wanting to claim it. So that's what a goal scorer would do. But it has been a good signing. But who is getting the credit for signing him? The manager that was in place at the time, or is it the director of football, or is it the recruitment team? John.
I'm just happy he's wearing a Hibs shirt. I'm not going to get into the technicalities. Do you know what?
I know. I know you're not wanting to, right? But that's the thing. This is it. So when things are good, that's when we ask questions, because look at Hearts, right? They're fucking shite, and they're all wanting Joe Savage out now. Last year, we needed to get the Joe Savage in.
Aye.
Yep. We talked about this last year, and I talked about like the possible downfall, like what would happen to Hearts if anything was to. And I didn't mean that to sound like, oh, check me, like I'm Nostradamus. I get exactly what I'm talking about. But I think football can just turn that quickly, like positively, negatively. We can have a poor run as we did at the start of the season. Now we're 3 games unbeaten, and you're like, oh, everything's quite rosy again. We can definitely, in a future episode, if things start to go to shit, say, right, who fucking signed who? Because I've asked that question before, because it's maybe my tiny brain can't understand the arithmetic behind who does what. So I'm just happy he's here.
I don't think it's common. I don't think it needs like a massive brain, John. Like, it's been, and this is the thing that always bugs me, it's been explained. Right, so the club have come out and said that you've got a recruitment team. They're led by somebody. So Brian McDermott would be involved in it. The manager's involved in it, right? So you've got folk.
Manager might get final say. They say, yeah.
Aye.
So it's Lee Johnson, to Lee Johnson's credit, that was saying Fondre, basically.
and I think that's
Thanks, Lee. Thanks, Lee.
I think that's kind of pretty much where the buck stops. You've got.
So should we maybe ask Lee not to take him to Fleetwood Town? Like, we should maybe like to re-sign Fondre on an extended deal.
He's under
He'll
contract
be in for
anyway,
the youth. He'll be in for the youth team lead in there anyway. He'll be chasing the youth boys. He never gave a fucking minute to.
But McDermott's influence is good to be there, because what he should be doing is sort of saying, right, that's what you're looking at now. That's not really the level that we're looking at. Look at these boys. That's where we should be aiming at, and then setting the parameters like that.
Either way, well done.
Aye.
So, John,
I was just going to ask a question. So I think, well, I'm sure we'll touch on Rory Whittaker, Stephen Whittaker's dad. We often look at the progression of young talent that's coming through the side from the academy and what have you. Do you think McDermott's looking for another Le Fondre? And the reason I ask that is because we've had success in the past with, say, Craig Brewster, like an experienced striker. He helped bring Gary O'Connor through, Grant Holt with Jason Cummings, Le Fondre. Like, who are the guys? Well, I don't know who they are, but I wonder if McDermott is out there looking for the experienced striker or the experienced midfielder to help bring other players through the side that's going to make us better.
I would think so. I mean, you want to have these type of players in and around the club.
Yeah.
And it's
one of the things. 4884, doesn't it?
Exactly.
As well,
just to bring that up. Yeah.
Good. Get minds. We'll get back to the game, because we've still got to go through all these fucking talking points. Right. Yep. And I've not set a timer, as we've discovered.
Sorry, we're under control.
So,
we're under control.
So there was I think Yuan had a miss that I've already touched on, and then there was a brilliant bit of play. Lewis Miller mainly involved with a couple of 1-2s, and then I think the goalie saved for Yuan, and it was just I thought it was great, the right back getting forward and making those kind of passes into midfield and back out. So I don't know if you've got any comments on that, but that was just my observation.
Sorry, John, I'm doing a lot of talking here. That's because I've never get the chance. I'm like,
It's because he's a Supremo. That's
it's
why he's the best, John. That is why he's the best.
I just want to put you in the spotlight every week, Matty.
It's so because he's like, I was at the game. Let me talk about
it. Our attacking play in the second half, right? So, see, when we settled down, to go back to the point you made about the crowd getting restless, right? There were times where we stopped on the ball and dwelt on it. So, Joe Newell got caught in possession early on. Jimmy Jeggle got caught in possession in the first half as well, when it looked like they should have got the ball away sooner. And I think the plan is, because you see Brighton doing it, is you stand on the ball pretty much and you let, it's like you let the opponent make the first move, pretty much, and then when they break their lines, you go right fucking ping. You pass through them, right? That's the idea. You break the press, and I think the criticism.
Is that a mid block? Is that a mid block or a high block?
Oh, I don't ken. Right, this is but this is the theory behind it, and I think the criticism could be is in game when it really matters. The time for us to be learning that. Like, so first half, it looked like we didn't quite ken exactly what we were doing with it, and we got caught out. And a better team would definitely punish. Like, if we'd been playing Celtic and done that, we would have been 2 goals down, right? Newell's mistake would have been punished, and Jekyll's mistake would have been punished, almost undoubtedly, right? If we did it in a derby, there's every chance, right, that it's like one of these soft goals that you go, Christ's sake. But I didn't have a huge problem with doing it. Like, I think if you're going to do it in a game, St Johnstone at home's probably the one to do it, because you could probably get away with a mistake or two. But we were better at it in the second half, so maybe it was just like a bit of nerves or whatever. The crowd did get restless, but I thought the crowd stayed with the team, and into the second half they were right behind them. The crowd supported really well. But second half, Hibs attacking play was really good. Like, Miller linked up with Boyle really well on the right hand side. Abita did well on the left hand side, but I thought when Yuan came on for Tavares, that the standard of play lifted massively. I mean, there's a huge difference in standard between those two players at the moment.
Yeah.
I think one thing I'm impressed by is the number of times that we're getting balls into the box. And like say, so Yuan, for example, I think there was maybe 2 instances yesterday. I think sometimes he's been reluctant to shoot, maybe because he's wanted to get it on his right foot or whatever. But yesterday he's had at least 2 digs with his left. I think did the first one, was it a rebound? Or it wasn't a great shot, and then the second one was a rebound off the keeper. And I think getting those shots away, even at so there's going to be a couple of outcomes there. You're going to screw it wide, screw it over the bar, going to force the keeper at the save, and hopefully you've got someone run up behind. And I think we saw that against Kilmarnock as well. And I think the other chances that we've missed previously is the rebounds and like the tapping.
Anticipation.
Yeah. So that's one we changed that I'm quite impressed by.
Good. Talking of saves, Marshall made a cracking save. We shouldn't have missed that out. We've criticised him in the past. So when you watch it back, it's like the boy standing right in front of him as well.
Yep.
So it's actually the reactions on that. I think he might have made another save, but I think he made a couple of saves of what I've read, but that was the one that stood out.
It was one of these ones where the ball was almost in the net, and when they claw it out from behind them, and you think, fuck's he saved that? Because it was a goal on the way. Like, we were like, oh, fuck's sake, and then you're like, oh, bloody hell, we saved it. Terrific.
Reminded me a wee bit David Seaman, Sheffield United, when he, like you say, like he clawed out. I think the big difference between the two is that it was more of a slap for Marshall rather than a big hand kind of like palming it away. But I cleared these lines, and I think Colin's right. You need to give him the credit where it's due, because he's had a bit of stick since pretty much Inter Enchilada.
I think he's got better since his distribution's got worse.
And how happy are you to see that, Colin?
I'm just, you know what? I just want to go to make fucking saves. That's the. So anyway, we've covered that in plenty.
On Marshall, Montgomery is, so obviously we've changed the goalkeeper's coach, right, which is one thing. And nobody talked when Gordon Marshall was a goalkeeper coach, and it was Zibby in it, and Marshall got fucking slaughtered for every mistake that the keepers made. Marshall got progressively worse for us under the last goal of coaching. Nobody talked about that. I only thought about that myself when he left.
I haven't thought about that now. Yeah.
Anyway, Marshall was good, but I noticed Montgomery, since day one coming in, has taught Marshall up. even
He
after
did
the
in the
game
interview.
there.
Yeah.
It's just talk him up, and it's that confidence thing. If Marshall has maybe been a bit, I'm not at my best and I'm a bit of a low ebb, then Montgomery's definitely done I'm going to make sure everybody kens how good a keeper he is and just keep saying it until it sinks in.
Believes it himself again.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, Matt. And I was going to ask you what your thoughts were on Montgomery's post-match press conference yesterday with regards to his comments about the players in comparison to, say, some of Lee Johnson's interviews.
I thought it was good. Folk were quite gushing about it, and I don't know if I wasn't blown away thinking it's like revolution. Like, remember when Mowbray spoke? Like the first few times you heard Mowbray talking, you're like, this guy's good. I didn't think it was quite like that, but I really liked it. Dead straightforward, very, very positive, really focusing on the positive things, talking everybody up. And when he did have to acknowledge that there was something better, it was like just really matter of fact, like, we need to do that better at stopping crosses, I think he mentioned at one point, but we'll work on that. And then he moves on to the next positive thing. I don't think there was loads in his post-match that.
Do you know what
it was good enough?
Like for me, I watched it because I seen like the gushing praise, like you touched on there, and so I watched it. Even though, like, I didn't know my bother, you can't, I didn't watch it any of that shit, right? And it was 4 minutes long, which was like, am I going to watch all of this? and I did because I knew, as I say, I'm trying to make up the points for not being there, and he didn't say anything. But he didn't say anything fucking stupid.
Right.
That's what he didn't do, and that's what everybody else gets criticised for. So he just said normal stuff, positive stuff that you would expect. Get it 6 months, we'll all be going, fucking boring, there's no point listening to it. But today, because we've come from somebody that talks about lions and sharks and fucking all the other shit, and ACS and all that, like, we're going, oh, this is amazing, like revolutionary. It's just normal stuff, And we'll all be going, like that cliche thread you had going on Twitter, it'll just fit into that.
I'll say one thing: he never took credit for any. Do you know that was one of the big differences for Johnson? Johnson would have been talking about what he'd done in training or what system he'd picked or a change that he'd made in the game to make things better. There was nothing there at all. We just talked about being happy to get a young player his debut. He talked about Marshall being a great keeper.
Yeah, which is probably the last thing to cover is the young lad getting on. So I hadn't even heard him till I read it in the Hibs Observer the other day about him getting called into the squad, and I thought, who's this laddie? And I was looking because there's a laddie that my daughter Leah was at school with that stays along the road that's in the under 18s, and I thought, oh, is it him? It's not. His name's McGrath or something. So I'll keep an eye out for him as well, just because he's local and he knows my daughter. But this lad Whittaker, 16 and 44 days, which is about the exact same age as my daughter, which makes you go, fucking hell, like how young is he? But how did he look when he came on? I think he came on in right midfield, but he's a right back to trade. John,
he looked good. I think with Montgomery's post-match comments when he was talking about like how I'm probably misremembering what he said, but I think he said he was basically happy to have given Hibs fan guy, who's coming through the youth system at Hibs, his full first team debut. And speaking as someone who is old enough to have been around when Lewis Stevenson started playing for Hibs 18 years ago and longer, something that I've always enjoyed, because I think it's that extension. It's almost that extension of yourself as a supporter. I couldn't play football for Hibs, so I want to see someone else that I could have been playing football for Hibs. So that's always pleasing for me. And I think the thing that I want to see going forward for him is, one, more opportunities, but two, just that kind of unconditional backing for the support. And he did himself a lot of good things. He did a lot of good things yesterday that'll stand him in good stead for the future. So I think he's run, like the delay of the run to take the pass from Martin Boyle and get that shot away. I think that was really clever.
Do you think he could have got the shot away first time instead of let it run past them?
Possibly, but I get, like, again, you kind of need to give it that little. I think you maybe need to give him a little leeway. Like,
absolutely.
If you were going to be in that situation yourself.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not criticising him, but that'd be the dream, though, wouldn't it? To come on, 16, team sport, played with since you were fucking 10 or whatever, and he actually didn't go in. And it was like he thought about it and then let it run past him, and then it was almost like too far away from him.
I think, aye. So I was watching. I think it was in the post-match press conference. I think Montgomery was saying, because I'd never heard about him either. I think because of all the other names that we've talked about recently, there's been Megwa, Molotnikov, the McIntyre brothers, and it turns out that Rory Whittaker has been lurking in the background.
Well,
Normally
do you
plays
know
right back, was put at right midfield, and then yesterday he was trying to take that shot on his left. So that's got to be a good thing going forward. Like a right-sided player that's willing to use his left foot.
I thought it was great. All the players that I've read commenting after it have all mentioned them as well. Like, so the laddie must feel fucking top of the world today. But you know, and it's just came to me on here, and it could be like it's just going to be could be totally inaccurate, so it fits in totally with the podcast. But I wonder if he played more minutes already than Lee Johnson gave to everybody else in the development team last season. Because what did he get yesterday? How long was he on? It doesn't matter how long he was on, because I bet he was still fucking longer than the rest combined. In a minute here and there.
Can't be far off it. Because what did he get? About 25 minutes, I think.
Aye, and he came because we had maybe Connor maybe got longer when he got that penalty against Aberdeen, but other than that, you had McIntyre 5 minutes here, 2 minutes there. You know, it was like total congesturism stuff. So, and they must be like that team is. I mentioned that in a group chat earlier, like sort of half flippantly, but that whole team had been almost bypassed and punted out on loan, which is generally, not always the start of the way out. And he's come straight in at the first team, which is what some of them should have been last season, the ones that were good enough. And there's probably 8 players you could name out of that team that we know of names that never got a chance. And now they're away on loan, and hopefully they're not forgotten, and hopefully they come back and can do it, because as John says, we all want like the young, the golden generation, that kind of, you know, you give them your support, you see more in it. I'm talking about the laddie that's not even played a minute yet because he stays along the road, and I'm like, oh, we hope he does well. I don't know, like, but because you've got the kind of local affinity or whatever you want to call it, and that whole team that done so well, you know, 20 minutes between them they've had, you know.
It was a really ballsy decision for Montgomery to play him. Like to
it was almost put a marker down, eh?
Aye, and it was, and because like I was thinking at the time when he came on, right, and I thought Whittaker did well when he came on, didn't it? Particularly because of the circumstances, right? But we're 1-0 up against, like, so St Johnstone are, I think I called them a basic football team yesterday. Right? They had nothing about them, but they weren't. They're not incompetent, right? They came out, they're doing, they're physical, they play like a sort of a fairly tactically structured game. I think like they're pretty rigid in what they do. They're just not very good, but they could hurt you. Like they're good enough that if you weren't at your game, you could lose to them. At 1-0, the game's still in the balance. We were on top, and to put somebody when you didn't ken, how's this boy going to react in a first team situation? Like, is he at the level? Because we've only seen him in training. To have the balls to do that and back up what you said about giving young players a chance, and then for it to pay off, which is the big thing, the fact that it worked, and then we went on and extended our lead. It's really, really good. And you wonder what would have happened if we'd lost the game 2-1 for that point. Do you know, if it had gone backwards, right? So it wouldn't have been Whittaker's fault or whatever, but would folk have come out and said, well, that's it was a stupid decision. Has he underestimated the opposition and these kind of things? But I think you want to have a manager that's prepared to take a chance like to back their judgment. And he was spot on, he got it right. Like, you can't argue with it. But 1-2-0 and Whittaker had a good game. And you've got to give the manager praise for that. But it's a fucking bold move. It would have been so easy to play safe there and just go, we'll put Levitt on, or do you know, one of the experienced players.
Agreed. But if you're going to do it, honeymoon period's probably a good time to do it as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Anything else to talk about the game before I hit any of these talking points?
Nah, you've got
must be running quite late.
20 minutes on your talking points, Colin.
Yeah.
Aye.
Right. Drag them out then. We get fucking hundreds, and I apologise in advance to the folk that I didn't read it. Right, Andrew Brown says, less than 2 weeks in, we can see a style and a pressing game. I think we're going to, you know, my glasses are fucking, I'm getting old, man. My eyes are terrible.
Are you going to have to do this thing where you have
your specs off, mate?
Your phone out away from your face? Sometimes have to do that again. You're like, this trying to do something. What the fuck does that say?
For those watching on YouTube, I've just taken the intelligent specs off. Or for those not, watching it because everybody on YouTube already fucking knows.
I would have seen it. Yeah.
Right, less than 2 weeks in, we can see a style in a pressing game. Think we're going to turn into a decent team under Monty if we can take more chances. Really enjoyed the game today, not just because it was the Suns' first game. We were unplayable at times in the second half. Interestingly, that was a Hibs kids game yesterday, and we won. So that's a nice turnaround as well.
That bucks that trend. I say trend. You suggested that it was that we normally get beat when it's a Hibs kids game, but I've actually done
like
zero analysis on it.
Somebody had posted on the PM board, so it was Dave Farmer had flagged it was the Hibs kids game, and that was like the sort of the kiss of death for it. And I was like, oh fucking that is going to be shite then. And somebody posted it. I think the stats don't back it up. I think that it's a pretty much back now. We've probably won more than we haven't won with them.
It's always the same teams at Hibs kids games. So St Johnstone's always a Hibs kids game. It must be because we didn't sell enough tickets or something. You know, like they always make it 3 days. And our record against St Johnstone's patchy, which would fit with those stats that you've just said.
Yeah. On Andrew's point about the difference, I think that I was going to suggest that as our topic for extra times to give our spend a bit of time talking about our initial opinion and views on Monty's time. So if you're a subscriber, we'll go into a bit more detail on that in our extra time episode.
How are we feeling? I maybe want to say it was is it Mikey West Pilton goes by on Twitter. I think he said, and I might be misquoting, but I think he said that he wasn't comfortable calling him Monty. How comfortable are you both referring to Nick Montgomery as Monty?
It feels too early.
It's a bit basic. It's a basic nickname as well.
Does it feel a bit too familiar? Does it feel a wee bit, I don't know, like, it doesn't feel right for me, but I can't put my finger on exactly why.
I think it's
Mr.
like
Montgomery?
No, so Mr. Montgomery's too far. Like if you were wearing a cardigan and drove a Rover,
and we're a head teacher at a public school.
Aye, then maybe Mr. Montgomery would be the route. Monty feels like we've not quite got that connection with him yet. Eh? Like it's too familiar. It's like when somebody you've just met calls you a nickname, or like I introduce myself as Matty, right? Generally, and if somebody then immediately calls me Matthew, I'm like, what I said my name was it? Like
it's not a nickname though. It's not a fucking nickname either though.
No,
because it's your name.
Right.
Do you know that I am a podcast supremo? You will refer to me.
But
like
you know what I mean. It's like that. Has everybody acknowledged that it's all right to do it? I think Monty's
like
probably
that,
where he's
like
going
an Andrew and Andy. You didn't go straight into Andy until you know.
Exactly, until you check or a David. You didn't necessarily go straight to Dave. I think we'll probably all land on Monty. Though it's easier than saying Montgomery, and we're all lazy, aren't we? Like this is the thing. So
LJ was the last one.
I never liked LJ.
Have we spoke about enough about nicknames? I think nicknames are basic. There's football nicknames are just so basic.
Just had a Y at the end. Montgomery.
That's too much. Right, Fats Prickus, he's not talking about peri peri chips, but he is talking about the installation of Champions League disco lights. Where will the plinth be situated in which the Champions League trophy will rest atop? We'll worry about that next season. I think we can win the league yet this year. So
we're not out of it yet mathematically.
I was going to suggest that they could maybe do something clever with a drone where it maybe like swoops over Easter Road and then sees it sitting on top of Arthur's Seat or something. That feels pretty cool for me.
We could do like the Spurs Stadium's got the cockerel, isn't it? Like on a bit up in the stand. I think we could do that. We could just build a wee bit out the top of the famous five for it.
Good shout. Right, Neil Renton, how good was Joe Neal? Best player in the league just now. Agree?
Really liked his inventiveness for a cross for Fondre to get a header in, and the keeper had a really weird save. He kind of went for the cross and then he sucked the two players into diving in. Not unlike when David Witherspoon sucked in Alex Gogic and we conceded a goal in was it the cup final?
It was.
But he made them jump in, and then that created space for him to get a wee crossing. So I was a big fan of that.
I tell you what, how good Joe Newell has been, right? Is nobody talks about Martin Boyle anymore, right? Or hardly ever, right? But Boyle was the main man, right? And was levels above that play. When he moved, he was like carrying us through every fucking game pretty much. And we'll talk about it. He's a good player, right? I mean, there's no disrespect to Martin Boyle, right? Like, absolutely love the guy, and it's not like he's playing badly. But Joe Newell's shining in the team now. He's the one that you're looking at and going, fucking hell, he's digging us out and getting us going. So, and I think had a very good interview with the boys on Down the Slope as well. So he's definitely flavour of the month at the minute.
I think, or I wonder how much impacts the game on a Saturday, because I think that's an interesting point that you make, Matty. But I also think that Boyle's had a wee bit of a slow start to the season, which is perhaps understandable after his injury and his surgery and what have you. But I thought possibly in the last 2 games that I think we started to see more. Certainly yesterday, maybe less so against Kilmarnock. There was more. I think we were starting to see more of the Martin Boyle that got that move to Saudi Arabia that you described.
I definitely agree with that. Definitely, he's definitely coming into the game, but I think the style that Montgomery's wanting to play is going to suit Boyle, because he wants to get forward and get forward quick. So,
yeah. Right, this one's quite long because it's in about 3 or 4 parts. So it's Luke M. From his time with the Mariners, we're led to believe that NM is a genius motivator. Now he's done it over 3 or 4 weeks, so he could have went Nick Montgomery, because it's not a tweet, it's not a letter count thing problem here anyway, right? It's a genius motivator. He was sceptical. Now I'm on board. Yesterday's team selection doesn't just motivate sidelined and academy players by benching the captain. He sends a message that anyone can lose their spot. His post-match interview will also have got into the heads of parents who are choosing which youth team to send their laddies to. Youngest player ever makes a headline. The body of the article explains NM's pedigree. Whittaker's performance is the icing on the cake. When this guy says something, he follows it through. And I suppose Charlie Banks added to that, well, never added to it, but he said similar. How refreshing is it to see a manager be accountable for what he says? He's so bought into Monty's vision already. Oh, and wait a minute, Luke's got another one here. Final one from me. How the F does Marshall make that save? He's unsighted by the St Johnstone player who's blocking him. Credit where it's due. Bravo, Marsh. Loads of nicknames, loads of different abbreviations. So it's quite interesting as well. What's your thoughts on all of those words?
Go take this one, John.
I'll be honest, I can't remember most of them.
You've got too long, didn't read that. Too long, didn't read, but I did fucking read it. So, bravo, we.
Could you summarise it for me, Colin? I'll call it. No, I think so. I think we talked about criteria for the new manager in the extra time episode, and I think that touches on some of those things. And what I'm curious about, and I think I discussed it with what Montgomery was meant to have done at the Mariners in terms of being there at the academy, and then he became the manager, bringing players through, all that sort of stuff. I wonder from a sort of wider perspective as the Hibs manager, like, does he go out? Does he go into the office? Does he go to East Bains or whatever and say, right, I need to play a youth player this week because I said that I would do that as part of my kind of like appointment, as part of my interview, as part of when I was appointed, what I said to the fans, like, I need to follow that through. Is it because, like I say, I don't think of this stuff. Like I kind of look at it and go, right, he's played a young laddie. Like I just assumed that he was good enough and he wanted to give him his opportunity. But I wonder if he's behind the scenes, like maybe plotting an overall vision for Hibs and how all of these things, all of these different parts will make up the whole.
That's a really good question, John.
That is. And do you know what I think?
Are you taking the piss?
No sarcasm there whatsoever. Like,
because it sounds like what he was doing before. It sounded like there was no accident to what he did. But I'd love to get into the sort of mindset, like, is there a big whiteboard with like pins and bits of string at East Bains, but he says, right, I am doing this. This is my vision. This is where I see myself being.
I can tell you there isn't, right? Because I walked past it on Tuesday night last week and they'd left the lights on in the office, the manager's office, and it was just a yearly planner on the wall. And they didn't really have much information on it. So he might have a PowerPoint or something.
I think though, to answer your question, John, sorry, Colin, I thought it was like a genuinely good question. I think if you're coming in and making statements about I'm going to do this and that and the next thing, the earlier that you can do them, the better, because that's what people will remember. So even if Montgomery doesn't play another youth player for 5-6 games, we'll all remember youngest ever player, Rory Whittaker. He did it 2 games in, right? Made the debut, because that's what we're talking about. So already he's planting the seed that that's what he does. So whether he does it 5 or 6 times, it doesn't really matter now for him. It's like the old joke about the boy that lives in the village. He says, kind of, I've fixed 4 roofs, but nobody calls me a roofer. I've slaughtered 3 sheep, and nobody calls me a fucking butcher. I've fixed 4 cars. I shag 1 sheep, right? Is what he's known for. And that's it. It's like Montgomery will So he's got the reputation for playing the young players. He's got the reputation for dropping the young players. He's got the reputation for going 4-4-2 and having that attacking style, for motivating players, and he's backed up in his first 2 weeks. That will stay with him now.
Vision, eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what he's done as well, though, is see the standards of that. You think I'm going to say something funny. I'm no, this is a serious point. And I can see his face. He's looking at me as if to say, right, what's he got? He's got to make a joke or something. I'm no
disappointed.
The standards of that development training now next week is going to go up, right? Whether because they'll be thinking he's watching, I've got a chance. Whereas the last year's team, they were all going, fuck this, I'm away to Brentford B. That's the difference, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm being flippant there, but that's what happened. And the laddies will all be going in there in the morning thinking, fucking, I'm well up for this because I might get on the bench on Saturday or Wednesday. So I'm supposed to back up that Liam Baldry, Monty's balls of steel. That young laddie was ready to come on at 1-0, brave and bold. Won't always work out, but got to give him credit on this occasion. Whittaker worked his socks off, deserved to score with that chance. Great to see. Neil Renton, how short are Lewis Miller's shots? Why does he roll them up? And who do I complain to? Who do I complain to about him having thighs like that? Well, that'll be the strength and conditioning guys. That you would go to about that. But why does he roll his shorts up? Probably because he's got thighs like that. I think he's answered his own question.
See, I wonder if he's got. Back years ago when I'd had a knee injury, I remember going to physio and they were saying to me everyone's got like a dominant leg, and I wonder if he pulls the shorts up on his dominant leg because that's the one that he wants restricted least. I wonder if it's just like little marginal gains that he's trying to get, like, you know, jump on a player, like, or, you know, pushing off his standing foot or whatever.
Boyle does it, Boyle
It must be a
does it with both legs.
Jago did
it? Don't think so. Because Boyle only does it with one leg, and that's maybe because he's like Scottish Australian, whereas Miller's full Australian. So maybe you've stumbled on the answer there.
The Australian leg is the one that's got the short leg pulled up, and the Scottish legs, right?
That's
okay.
It.
I mean,
it'll be because gravity works different in Australia because they're upside down. It's stronger, so that'll naturally
maybe
pull the shorts up.
Aye. Maybe. Does he wear the socks over the knee as well, Lewis Miller? Or am I imagining?
No, I don't think so. Don't think he does that.
That's maybe next week. What else? So Ross Grievax on Lewis Miller. How long is it going to be before he snaps at someone for the ludicrous tackles he gets and gets himself sent off? I think we've touched on that already, but hopefully he doesn't.
He lost the plot. He went head to head with a boy. Before that, he'd had a right go at Clancy because Clancy ignored it. It was like a blatant foul on him, and he was like, "What the fuck am I having to do to get a free kick here out in the East Stand touchline?" That was in the second half. In the first half, I can't remember which of the coaching staff it was, but he came out with fucking apoplectic at Clancy for not giving us a free kick for a foul on Miller, like fucking stamping his feet and waving his arms. Again, like I was like, "Oh, that's good. He's fucking no missed him there." I kind of spoke about it already, but he did snap and he just managed to rein it in on time. I like to see the coaches having a good goal like that as well.
Yeah,
big fan.
John Armstrong, there was chat that it is obvious which players can't fit into this new system. Who? I'm not sure. I've not had that chat. I don't know where that's been, but is there players that don't fit into this system, which is 4-4-2, which is probably like the original formation, for the post-war. Well, post-war it was about 2-3-5 or something you played, but
what was the
70s onwards?
I'm trying to think. You maybe don't know, but there was a manager at Arsenal, I think it was Herbert Chapman, who introduced. I don't know if it was like the 2-3-5. It was like, was it an MW or something they called it?
Yeah, MW.
Was it that?
Yeah, you're right. Or the WM. I think sure it was MW.
But I don't know. I never saw anyone playing yesterday. Like, no one sticks out, and admittedly it might be because I was on a wee bit of a high, having won 2-0. But I don't think I saw anyone yesterday that I thought, nah, you're not going to cut it here.
Most players will fit into a 4-4-2.
You would think
it's
so.
Kind of traditional, sort of.
Does it? See, with playing a 4-4-2, so thinking back to Chris Cadden, for example, the last couple of years, there was a bit of debate whether he was better as a right back, a right wing back, right midfield, or whatever. Do you see any difficulties with him getting back into the squad?
Nah,
like either at right back or right midfield is if we continue to play a 4-4-2.
The only thing that will keep Cadden at the squad is form Lewis Miller. I think, like out the team. So Lewis Miller, you wouldn't have dropped him, I wouldn't drop him for Cads to now. Karen could come in front of him as a bit of an option further forward if Boyle's not available, and play the sort of position that Whittaker took up on Saturday. I would question where Levitt fits in. But now,
Maybe it'd be Jekyll. You
you would think so, and it's funny because Levitt and Newell against Luzerne I thought were a terrific pairing. Like they complemented each other really well. Like you could hear it from the stands. Levitt was saying, "Joe, your hair's great." Newell was saying, "You look nice in those shorts." They were like, it's just like for 90 minutes complimenting each other, and it got the best out of them. But so
Just
there
thinking,
maybe be games for it, but it's hard to see where he gets in ahead of Jago at the minute, which I never thought I would say.
it's just thinking back to the down the slope interview with Joe Newell. I think Joe Newell and that, it was interesting. Like obviously Joe Newell was the focal point of the interview, but the way that it was coming across was that Joe Newell is one of the first names on the team sheet to talk about cliches and what have you. But the way that he talked about, say, Jake Doyle-Hayes, Dylan Levitt, Jimmy Jago, it's almost like each of those guys complement me and what I'm doing. And I thought that was quite interesting because it means that there's going to be different options, like week to week, depending on the opposition, depending on injuries, depending on form.
And we've plugged that interview 3 times now. That is more than enough. Anyway,
we interviewed him a year
Sorry,
ago.
boys.
If anybody wants to look that up as well, it was Joe's a great guest.
Colin's not the boss of me. I'll make it a 4th time.
I'm a fucking supremo today. Right. Ross Grieve again. Lewis Stevenson's 12 away from 600 appearances. Is he going to make it? And if he does, can he then go on to challenge Stanton, Duncan and Smith to get into the top 3? I can't remember how far away they are, but I mind looking it up. Last season, and I think he was going to. I was going to say maybe he needs another season, maybe 2 seasons to get through that 50, 60 games he needs. And I don't know, he might just fall short, but I think he will get the 12.
How do we mark it if we mark it Lewis Stevenson hitting 600 appearances? Because that'd be phenomenal.
Hanlon's no far away either. Hanlon's younger than Stevenson, as much as they get grouped as a partnership like they're twins or something. But they actually, Hanlon's got a couple of more seasons. He could jump Stevenson.
Stevenson could catch Stanton. Stanton's 617.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a tall order. What's that? Another 29, 27?
So he could do it, right? But I don't think he'll go any more than that.
No, 29. John, it's 29. I'm sorry, mate. Sorry. Fucking hell.
2 and 7, 2 10s is 29. Right?
That's right.
I just went, that's fine, Collins.
I know you did. And I'm looking going, no, it was 12.
Supremo. See, anything below 100, I'm pretty good at.
That was too easy for me. Right. Ian T. He has saying we need to get a slot with Brian McDermott. I think we can see the green shoots already. He's the key to unlocking our recruitment omni-shambles, which is the only reason I'm reading out for that word of yesteryear. We are working on that, Ian. Stay tuned. Ice is his name, or Ice or Diamond is his handle. That's what he called the wee thing, why is that Jimmy Jago if Joe Newell continues drifting into a defensive midfield position, even acting as a centre-back at points? I'm not even sure it's a conscious decision at this point. I think he's just too used to playing that deep after 2 seasons as a makeshift CDM. Matthew.
I thought the first half maybe they were guilty of coming a bit deep, but I don't think if that was deliberate to try and pull St Johnstone as well, because St Johnstone just sat in after the first 5-10 minutes where St Johnstone had a bit of a go. Once we settled into the game, St Johnstone didn't really do much in an attacking sense other than try to counter on us. And so I'm not sure if it was a sort of plot to try and just pull them out. He definitely played less deep second half, so whether that was a tactical switch or if he just sort of realised
the midfielders are meant to drop, tick the ball. That's all new coaching sort of stuff, isn't it?
But the other point on that, and again, it's going to talk about fucking tactics, right? There was a point where we were playing the ball out and the centre halves were wider than the full 18-yard box away from each other. Now, you mind we conceded a goal against Celtic under Maloney, and the first thing, because we gave the ball away, I can't remember who it was that gave away, Hanlon maybe, or it might have been Rocky, gave the ball away and Celtic just ran straight through the middle and fucking scored. Like, it was the easiest goal because there's 2 centre halves were fucking miles apart. Well, we were exactly like that on on Saturday. So if you're splitting your centre halves that far apart, you need your centre midfielders to come in deep to pick up the ball to kind of cover that space.
How long have I got left?
Time's up.
Time's up, right? Well, I'll rattle a couple of quick ones.
Go through a quick fire, yeah.
Vente's plenty. Is Boyle the only player in the team who doesn't get booed when he passes back to Marshall? Jeff Ashton, where do we start? Said on another tweet that we need to be patient with our style of play. Slow, Marshall, slow, Rocky, Marshall Fish, fucking uber quick, and sometimes devastating. Delighted to see Rory get his chance. Happy high B. Ellis says Lewis Miller's been mostly solid when he's played. Don't know why Johnson didn't play him more. Beldam, Lascar, Fondre is sublime for a player at our level, a natural. And Stephen Dowling, I think he's talking about Vente here. He says that boy is going to score some amount of goals when the whole team switch on, like Alfie, and see his runs. Vente's movement and play today was immense. And Vente's plenty. Last one, don't think there was a failure on the part today. Jair looked decent, if a bit lightweight. Jago excellent. Definitely performed better when Boyle moved back to the right wing, though. Unlucky not to win by another couple. And then he says, who did it better, Stevie May or Frank Drebin? And he's put a gif in. Police squad. I'm not sure.
May had the theatrics with like a wee sort of collision with Rocky. Fuck all in it.
Right.
May did his best to draw the attention to it and try to get player booked or sent off. So fuck Stevie May.
So that's all that. So thanks everybody sent them in. There is some more there I've seen have come in since we've started recording. Apologies for not getting around to them. So we'll just finish Wednesday night. St Mirren. We'll not bother about Wednesday, next Saturday. What's your predictions for Wednesday?
2-0 Hibs.
I think it's going to. I think it's going to be an exciting game. It's going to be hard to call. I'm going to say 2-1 Hibs. They're doing well.
That's good.
We've tightened up at the back and are still scoring goals, so it should be quite an interesting cup tie.
And they're due a loss, Sod's losses.
Wednesday morning before the game, if you want to listen to anything, our subscription only extra time will be available where we're talking about Nick Montgomery.
That we're just going to go and record now.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, thanks for your contribution, guys. I appreciated your time. As I say, my understudies today. So thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee.